to the party that never stops. This is One on One with the Grim One, and I am your host, the Joan Rivers of black metal, the Slayer of posers, the most electrifying man in corpse entertainment, the Necrosexual. And you know, I had to nail that falsetto because we are talking to one of the masters here. Joining me, welcome Nasty Ronny Galletti from Nasty Savage. And Ronny, thank you so much for joining me in cyberspace from your dungeon of pleasure. How the hell are you, my friend?
Man, it's good to be here, man. You know, the name reminds me of like in the song Psycho Psycho, I write Psycho Psycho Psychosexual.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same kind of vibe I'm catching here. Catching it feels good, man.
Nasty Savage. Big fan myself. I got the album, self-titled, 1985 from Metal Blade Records, the re-release. You guys burst on the scene, bursting televisions over your head, pounding out riffs. What I want to know, Nasty, is when you came about, what was your inspiration for Nasty Savage, and how did you bring that to being?
Well, you know, it's a good question because there really wasn't a lot of local bands at the time doing heavy metal or anything. Avatar was out, who became Sabotage. And there was another band called Argus, and they were playing a lot of British heavy metal, the new wave of heavy metal that was coming over. They played a few songs like Angel Witch and a few we used to go see those guys. And I kind of always wanted to get in a band, you know, and then I heard these guys were looking for a singer of a band. And so, you know, but my influence go back from even the Beatles or Led Zeppelin to Black Sabbath, you know, The Doors, Jim Morrison, you know, just music like that. And then I started getting into metal, and of course Iron Maiden and Judas Priest were big influences. And we actually went to see Judas Priest in Atlanta. It had to be like 1980, and they were with Iron Maiden opened up, and then Whitesnake played. And Iron Maiden, it was their Killers tour, so Paul Di'Anno was still the singer. But you know, it was just it was more based on reality and shock, you know, like the Plasmatics or the Sex Pistols or the Damned. So it was a mix between hardcore imagery, you know, things like that just inspired me or influenced me to get people to react. So I'm like, damn, if I had a chance to get in a band, I'll take people on a trip, you know, because when you have the stage, you have to make the most of it. So I was like, if I ever get on a stage, I'm going to own that fucker, you know, and I'm going to burn some images in people's brains. And so these guys were looking for a band, and they were called Nightmare. It was Ben and Fred and Craig Huffman. And I went there to try out for the band. And I sang like 2 Iron Maiden songs. And then I never heard back from the guys, you know, and for a week or so. Then I saw them at a keg party. And I went up to them. I said, man, do you guys want me to be your singer or not? And they go, yeah, we do. So I said, all right, I'll be over Monday with a game plan. And they're like, okay. So I went over there on Monday, and there's a bunch of people in the party room, you know, all these chicks and guys, groupie, you know, just band friends. I said, okay, everybody out except the band, everybody out. And they looked at me like, who the hell is this guy? And I said, everybody out, man. So they all left. I said, sit down. So the name of the band is Nasty Savage. I'm going to be Nasty Ronny, the wildest singer ever. And within about a year, we're going to be signed. We're going to be getting fan mail from all over the world, and we're going to be touring. Can y'all dig that? And they go, yeah, that sounds good. And so we're going to put our money together and create a demo tape called Wage of Mayhem. And we're going to sell it, and we're going to get signed. And that's really how it started. So the inspiring or the influence was what was going on at the time. You know, it was Maiden, it was Priest, it was Black Sabbath. And, you know, we just, and I didn't want to sing Judas Priest cover songs and all that. I said, you know what? Let's just sing our own stuff. Let's make our own music, and let's be different. And once we get on the stage, we'll just tear it up. And that's kind of what we did, man.
A man with a nasty plan. And you talked about having the stage, holding the audience in the palm of your hands and searing some images into their minds. So tell me, Ronnie, when you guys got out there as Nasty Savage and started playing some shows, what were some of the things you did to take them on a trip?
Well, the very first, what happened is we got Nasty Savage going, and then right away we acquired Curtis Beeson as the drummer, because he had all this equipment and gear and a truck to pull it all around in. He was a hell of a drummer. And our drummer, Craig Huffman, he just, he wasn't cutting it. Maybe, he's kind of drank too much, or just whatever happened. And unfortunately, Craig left the band and we got Curtis, who's an amazing drummer, full of fire and, piss and vinegar. And at the same time, we had added another guitarist, which was David Austin, who brought an unbelievable style to the band, and Ben had his style but Fred Dregeshin, our original bass player, he was like sort of like Steve Harris, or Paul McCartney or somebody, because he wrote a lot of the first album. He was good with music theory, and he was way out there. He became a chemical engineer or something like that, but he was just a really smart guy. So we brought the mix together. We created the band. Then let's do a gig. And one of the first shows, now before this, we had a show, I'd put posters and flyers up everywhere. Go, it's coming, Nasty Savage, it's coming, like blowing it up big time. And then my buddy in this neighborhood, this guy we knew, Tom Hepner, his parents were out of town, and he wanted us to play at his house. So we went to a construction site with Fred's van and stole like a shitload of plywood and wood, and we built this giant stage on his side yard. And all of Brandon came out, man, because they heard about it. This band's playing, you got to be there. We were about to go on stage. I had a TV set up there, all kinds of shit, and we had lights and everything. And before we went on stage, a buddy of mine was on his Harley and parked it out by the road. I said, dude, let me get on that Harley. And I rode the Harley right through the middle of the crowd. Everybody moved out of the way. I rode it right to the front of the stage, jumped off of it, jumped on the stage, and we started jamming. And, we were tearing it up. And, of course, the cops came, right? After about 5 songs, the cops come. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, they come right to the stage. And we waited right till I got there, and I said, okay, go. We played Breaking the Law by Judas Priest right when the cops were there. So, everybody was like, oh, these guys are defiant. Look, this is killer. This is anarchy at its finest. This is Nasty Savage. Oh, my God. And then, so the cops said, okay, if this is over, it's done, stop the music, do not play again. As soon as they left, I got 5 minutes away, we started cranking it up again, and the people were like, oh my God, they're doing it again, because I knew people would start talking, and so they came back again, and that was the end of it after that. But that's how it started with Nasty. I smashed TV on stage on the very first one. I used a sledgehammer that night, but it was just mayhem from the beginning, because like I said, in the old days, Little Richard, Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, or Johnny Cash, they'd share the same stage, man. They'd do these tours and they were playing all over the South. But when one guy got off the stage, the next guy came on. So when you have the stage, do something with it, make the most, anything in life, make the most of it. Of course, like a relationship with your family, your boss, your friends, whatever. But when you have that stage, it's a divine moment, man. I pity the fool who comes in and plays after us sometimes, because the mayhem would go down and it was just natural, just fucking crazy shit would happen. And, I really wasn't a singer. I just played one on stage, man, and took a dream to the next level. So it's what you make it in life, A lot of the American bands are setting the trends that other bands are following, and then that makes a lot of the European bands maybe sound more like American bands. And once you start sounding like another band, they're going to say, oh, this band sounds like this band. The best thing to do is sound like yourself.
Nasty! Nasty!
Of course, one of the iconic hallmarks of Nasty Savage is your falsetto. So what inspired you to hit those high notes, even if you were not a singer and just played one on stage?
I kind of became one, but inspiration like at the time, Merciful Fate was coming out and King Diamond, but Judas Priest, Ian Gillan, Bruce Dickinson, the singers that were doing stuff. But I just tried to have my original own style and put passion. You got to have passion in what you do, and even with writing the lyrics, the whole nine yards, man. You just have to make it happen. And I had to adapt to the music because I really didn't. I owe it all to the guys. They wrote the music and they go, here, check this out. Now you got to write lyrics to this. And each album got a little more insane. And when it came to like Penetration Point, there was some really, really different styles of crazy beats and rhythms, and that I'd have to create my own thing. So it was always a real challenge to do that. And I tried to mix it up as much as I could with my style of singing. And it's you got to have it in your soul, man. It's got to be real, and you just got to let it all hang out, and do the best you can, and try to do better, and just try to. I just tried to adapt to the music, the crazy shit that they'd come up with. It was almost like they're going, here, try this, see what you can do with this, and I was like, damn, that's some crazy stuff. But it helped me, and I'd wait to hear the music. I'd have all these titles of songs, and then I'd hear the music, and I go, okay, that is this one, that is this one. And I got to writing. To me is very important, though. Lyrics are very important to me.
Thinking of the music video where you're taking full back bumps, pro wrestling style. You have a history in professional wrestling. So at what point did the pro wrestling influence come to be? Was that something that you had planned to do before being in a metal band or after? Because you really took those two worlds and you merged them together into one unforgettable show quite well.
Yeah, I took full advantage of that, but I was always a wrestling fan, and that video is from Indulgence, from the Indulgence album. So it was our second album we did that video, and it was pretty cool. I'm taking those bumps on my back and flipping over and shit. But I used to do that every night, man. I was just really physical all the time. So I was always a wrestling fan, and like in high school, my friends wouldn't come pick me up till about 8 o'clock when Florida Championship Wrestling was over. I'd watch it with my mom, Dusty Rhodes, and all the killer wrestling that was going on in the Florida wrestling scene in the 70s and then into the 80s. And then Kevin Sullivan, the Prince of Darkness, and Habuda Dean, and all those guys came on the scene, Locke and Luna, Purple Haze, and Sir Oliver Humperdinck. These are people I admired and really were inspired by, because he was the evil. So I said, I've got to get with this guy. I'm in a heavy metal band. I've always been a wrestling fan. So I went to the Sportatorium where they do TV, and I'd sit there and knock on the door. I said, I want to see Kevin Sullivan. And then he'd finally come out and he goes, okay, brother. He goes, wait, I'll wait till the end of the day. And after the end of the day, everybody would be gone from the building. He'd say, you know what, come see me tomorrow at this wrestling show. So I'd go to that one, and he'd do the same thing. No, come to Sarasota. We'll maybe talk then. And the wrestling business isn't easy to get into back in the day. I mean, back in the 60s, 70s, it was really hard. Got a little easier in the 80s and 90s, and now anybody can be a wrestler. Everybody's got a wrestling school. So it was still pretty secretive. And, I just was like, damn, man, I want to get so I went. Then we went to a Judas Priest and Iron Maiden concert in Lakeland, Florida. We were already in the band, and I had some T-shirts and stuff. We were backstage, got backstage pass, and I was going to give them to Iron Maiden, to try to hang out with those guys and see what could happen. And then I saw the wrestlers at the show, and I saw Kevin Sullivan again and those guys. I said, dude, it's Nasty Ronny. You got to come see. We're playing this Saturday night in Tampa at Ruby's Pub. You got to come. And I'm like, those guys would never fucking come. But anyway, we're on stage, and back then it was just pure mayhem. I mean, thrashers 7 rows deep, stage diving, just nonstop mayhem at Ruby's Pub. There's famous tapes from there. And all of a sudden, the corner of my eye, I saw them come in the door, and they came in and went to the back. And I'm like, oh, fuck, they're here. And they witnessed the mayhem. They witnessed the power that I had on stage over the fans and over the thrashers, and pretty much anything we would tell them to do, they would do it, and they could see the performance. So the next day, Kevin called me and said, "Brother, dude, I was so impressed with your show, the mayhem. I want to work with you. Come see us." And I went to the next thing. We got together, and the first thing I told him, I said, "Man, you guys need to come to Vandekar's house and film some TV there." And that's the guy, the Warlock, who painted our album covers. He goes, "Okay." So they brought the film crew from Championship Wrestling, and they were there, and he was blown away by all the gargoyles and statues, and it was the house of Prince of Darkness. It was perfect. So I got to be on the opening of Florida Championship Wrestling with Kevin Sullivan, Nasty Ronny from Nasty Savage. These are the people I hang out with, and here we are in the Prince of Darkness is my house and all this shit. So as soon as that happened, everybody started seeing it, and then he called me up and he goes, "Dude, we're doing this big show in Daytona. Can you bring those flash bombs you had on stage?" That was before wrestling really had flash bombs and shit. So I said, "Yeah, man, I'll bring them." So I went all the way to Daytona. We had a big party. We got to hang out. I was in the Triple Chance cage match, and as part of his entourage is, coming down. So that's what started the relationship, and it led to this and that. And then I started getting with local promoters here. I said, "Yeah, I was on Championship Wrestling." And they go, "Come on in, work with us." And next thing you know, I was a promoter, and I was pushing my own wrestling matches and shows. And the next thing you know, I got a call from Universal Studios, a guy named Eddie Mansfield. He said, "Nasty Ronny, I want to come to one of your shows and check you out." So he came. Then he goes, "I want you to work for me at Universal Studios." And I ended up co-producing over 200 episodes of the IWF Wrestling in 1990 and 91 and 93, 92. So I got my background in really wrestling, and I was the company guy, man. I was a bad guy manager with I brought Nasty Ronny into that. It was at Universal Studios, the IWF Wrestling. We filmed in Soundstage 23. So I took full advantage, and I did bring the parallel together. And I had the Nasty organization. I managed the Mongolian Stomper and the Possessor. It was really cool. And I was really over on TV because I was his right-hand man. I'd bring talent from Tampa every week from the wrestling school and let him have the pick of the litter who he wants to develop into these different. And he was a brilliant mind. He was very inspiring. He was a leader, and I was his right-hand man. So, I mean, I worked my ass off more than just as a manager. I was in the office and stuff, so I learned the business really well there with our own company. And we started doing house shows around Florida. I'd go to the towns before we got there, and I'd set up these promotions and sponsorships. And one night I was at a dinner party with my wife, and she sells insurance. And she goes, "Oh, this is Angie's husband, Roger, and he's a CEO at Nestle." I go, "Nestle?" I said, "Roger, do I have an idea for you?" And he goes, "What would that be?" I go, "Check this out, the IWF Wrestling Nestle Crunch of the Week." I said, "We'll put your name on the middle of the mat. We'll go, now let's go, the Crunch of the Week, boom, by Nestle." And he goes, "Hey, that's a great idea." He goes, "Give me a proposal on that." I walked away going, "Yes, sir." And I go, "What the hell is a proposal?" I didn't even know. But within 30
right there, yeah.
Yeah, but within 30 days, I had him signed to a $45,000 proposal. So I learned very quickly what it was, and I adapted to that. And the rest is kind of history, but it just was. Then I got with Locke and Luna, managed the Daughters of Darkness, got them on our Triple X on the album. They did live appearances with us. So it was pretty cool. It was a good parallel, and I really enjoyed it because it was something I really wanted to do, but it got me into the wrestling world as well. And I ran a lot of shows, and from time to time I'll still do a show here and there, and bring some. I'll get someone to buy a whole show, and I'll book all the wrestlers. And like we brought in Rob Van Dam in the IWF. A lot of wrestlers started there. Kevin Kelly was an announcer that went to the WWE. We had the Smoking Guns, which when we had them, they were big in the WWE. Smoking Guns, the Cowboy Tag Team. When we had them, they were called the Long Riders. I worked with Blackjack Mulligan. So yeah, we had a lot of fun, but it's all about marketing and promotion and passion, but taking care of business, showing up on time, being professional, giving value to your boss or whoever it may be, and to the fans, and giving a quality product. It's always important. And that's what I really tried to always do.
Ronnie, I appreciate all the quality education that you've given us and all the heavy metal freaks watching in cyberspace. What do you want to say to the thrashers out there who are watching?
I'm going to be 60 years old, man, this month in December. So we're still thrashing, and it's old school, like power to the people, get on the bus. Power to the people, get on the bus. Get on the bus. Come back to the old school. Old school, old school. Nasty Savage. And what's really cool about that is a lot of these younger kids, these heavy metal thrashers and headbangers and whatever, starting to get into Nasty Savage who never knew anything about Nasty Savage. And I really got to thank the dudes in Obituary, because they put us on that 1,000 Ways to Die video. They featured Unchained Angel, and we're on stage, and they come to a Nasty Savage concert, and that's got millions and millions of hits. So it seems like now when we play Tampa alone, I start seeing a lot of younger demographic of kids out there. And getting back to Obituary, that's an honor for us, because those guys are really smart, and I really respect those guys a lot, and they come right from our backyard. But one day back in the 80s, I was in my room at my mom's dad's house, and my mom goes, "Ron, there's two boys at the door want to talk to you." I go, "Okay." These two kids out there on their bicycles. They go, "Hey, are you Nasty Ronny?" I go, "Yeah." They go, "We're Donald and John Tardy, and we want to start a band, and we want to know how to do it." They came right to the source. I mean, how smart is that?
Yeah, obviously they're smart if they're going to the house of Nasty Ronny.
They found out where I lived, and they came up, and I'm like, "Dude, that is really cool for you guys to do this." We ended up going to this place called Lithia Springs and threw the frisbee for like, I don't know, 4 hours, and I gave them an education on metal and just about how to do stuff. But those kids are so smart, and they're doing great right now. It's really, really cool that they gave us tribute in that video. And they always do interviews, and all the local bands here, Deicide, Morbid Angel, Death, Obituary, all those guys, Chuck and them used to come to our practice and our shows before they had Mantis and Death. And they used to wear Nasty Savage shirts. And I think Chuck was really inspired by David's guitar, and because he wasn't all death, he really wanted to do more than just being death metal. And it was really cool that they give us props that, hey, we were inspired by Nasty Savage. And I think that's why some of those guys came out even more extreme, with their music and everything, because of the mayhem that they witnessed when they were growing up watching us on stage. Because back then, man, when you're 20 years old, you can just tear it up now you got to kind of set your pace, what I have to do to build up to what I have to do, not only singing, but performing and just doing what comes natural. But so I would say to the fans out there and the kids and the metal dudes and girls, and it's all about the people, man. It doesn't matter what color you are or where you're from. It's that universal language of heavy metal that brings us together. Can I testify? And I really enjoy getting a message to the people on stage that we're only here for a short time. Make the most of your life, man. Why be hateful? Make friends, and have a good time. Enjoy it. Get on the bus and take a ride with us. We're going to the old school.
Life is short and full of woe. Make sure you thrash to Nasty Savage. And hey, thank you for going one-on-one with the Grim One Nasty Savage. This has been another transmission from the dark side with the Necrosexual. Thanks a lot, Nasty Ronny.
Thank you, brother. Keep up the great work, man. You're killing it. Everybody's talking about you. Keep up the good work. You need anything, you know where I'm at now.